again, Paddy.
Yeah, if it goes again, I'll have to just demonstrate learning and fix it. You think you're all set up, Anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome. This is another episode of Well, It Depends, and we're already anticipating lighting malfunctions. My name is Paddy Curry.
My name is Obi.
And each week on Well, It Depends, we take a complex question from the world of software development or product development and try to give a better answer than, well, it depends. So what does the answer depend on? We're trying to take our answer from our own experience and from things we're looking at, things we're reading online. And this week, the question comes from one of those articles that we've both read online and found interesting. And the question is science important for the Agile community? So, Pavel, this one came from an article by Christian Verwijs, and I've tried to make the question very similar to the article title. I might hand it over to you. Would you like to open up, or would you like me to open up?
No, I think in my head, the obvious answer is obviously it's important. A lot of agile approaches, Scrum says that it's based on empiricism. So it's like we learn from the things we did in the past. And then I imagine it has some notion of a scientific approach. I would be wondering, is the approach that currently people are using not scientific, or what are we missing? I think in the article, as far as I remember, I read it like 2 weeks ago, there was something about LinkedIn dramas, and that a lot of LinkedIn is not really scientific. It's just people sharing opinions like they are facts. And probably that's a bit different angle to the question than how scientific are we at work, because LinkedIn is a social media platform. So obviously drama sells well, and very controversial opinions sell well or get a lot of likes, thumbs up, and stuff like that. So probably that's where the focus is on LinkedIn. But does it mean that the whole community is unscientific? I think it depends on how you understand scientific approach, or when is it already a science and not just people doing stuff. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right, and maybe just for a little bit of background, Christian Verwijs and Barry Overham are part of a group called the Liberators, and Christian Verwijs especially is publishing these in-depth articles based on collaboration with academic partners. So he has a collaboration with an academic partner in the Netherlands, and the article. This one, it's less posed in question form, but Christian's opinion is it really is essential for us to start acting a bit more scientific in the Agile community. And yeah, you're right. I guess I can run through a sort of a very quick sort of potted summary of the post, the article. It's not too long, but his idea is that we rely more on scientific research and less on personal opinions. That people who are working in these agile roles in software development and product development tend to have a lot of deeply held beliefs about how work should happen, how things should happen, how we should work. And, on social media like LinkedIn, it can lead to lively debates, disagreements, and, depending on your perspective, personal opinion here, they can be to one degree or another useful or less useful. Sometimes you can get pulled in to something that might not be the most valuable use of everyone's time. But I think Christian Verwijs's point as well is that this is exposed to everybody. This is public. It's exposed to customers of what we're as Agile professionals bringing to the game. So a lot of these discussions are biased by personal experience. So like your own personal experience, if it was positive or negative. And what we really would love to see more of are stories of experiments. So like what worked well and why in a particular context. And one of the points that resonated with me, because I have a partner at home who's in the medical profession, the agile profession doesn't really have a non-commercial institution representing us. There isn't a loud non-commercial body out there representing representing research that supports our profession. Most of the bodies out there are commercial, and are marketing a particular framework. So what can we do? Well, he gives 4 suggestions. One is about social media. So we have a responsibility, I think, to not make bold claims unless they're at least supported by a demarcation of like, this is my personal experience. Or if you have strong evidence, to use it. He's also making a call to use Google Scholar. So find scientific research associated with a topic and refer to it. That you can contribute to scientific research by getting in touch with academics, and actually he suggests a few who are actively in this area, or by, and this is probably the least appealing to me, gently challenging those claims on social media that are based on agile is dead or whatever, and asking, well, what are you using to support this? Is this purely from your own experience, or is there scientific research to back it up? I think there's a lot in there. What's that given back to you, Pavel?
I know what this might break the podcast, but the first thing that came to my mind is a book that I'm reading right now, a chapter related to emerging complexity and how it emerges without a single decider, a single body, a single person, and single something that says it's right, it's wrong. It's more about how the thing can emerge that is very close to the optimal solution, and there is no one deciding. And this came to my mind when you said there is nobody that can say, yes, this is scientific. No, this is not scientific. The thing is quite distant, or maybe not so distant, from product development. There is a great study about the way slime mold spreads. I will try to paste here a picture from the study because it made my brain explode. They placed some mold on a strange patterned in a strange patterned box. They placed some cornflakes, that's slime loves, and the thing it does, it spreads and then it contracts, finding the optimal route to all the food sources. The great thing about it is that people try to solve the same problem. The box that they placed the mold in is actually the shape of area around Tokyo, and where they placed the cornflakes, that's the major cities. And what this mold came up with is the optimal connection of train stations between different cities, which is like emerging way to come up with something from this substance that has no neurons in it has no brain, versus the planners with PhD degrees who are trying to mathematically come up with the same thing ultimately. And there is this notion that in the slime there is no one making a decision. It's a purely physical thing that it does to find the optimal solution, and it's based on super simple rules. which are the same for ants and bees, how they find stuff, food. Uh, Spread the scouts. If you find this food source, communicate the quality of the food source. The longer or more degree you do it, the bigger the chance, like the physically, it's bigger chance that some other ant bee will find you, and then it will do the same, start communicating. And why do I keep talking about it in relation to science in product development? It's very similar in my head. You find some, you have some experience. You work in a small team, and previously you worked in large teams only, and now you worked in a small team, and it's like, oh my god, it's so amazing. We were able to do this, that, and you start, you're like a scout that found something, source of good stuff, and now you're communicating on LinkedIn and everywhere else. It was brilliant. Small teams are the way to go. And maybe other people will give it a try, and maybe they will also start communicating. Yeah, they worked for me. Oh, amazing, amazing. And that's how there is no single body that says small teams are great. This pattern just emerges from the community sharing this idea that small teams are good. The thing that is not so great in that example is what community does with this idea is that you can only work with small teams. You're not working with small teams, you're just stupid. You're doing it wrong, and that's not good, because there is a context in which larger teams make sense. For example, dynamic reteaming book that mentions a lot of that. So I think the part we are losing this way is what is your context, and in what context it wouldn't work that way, and you should find different approach, different solution than what is the community standard. Yeah, sorry if that goes in a completely
No, that makes a lot of
wrong
sense.
direction.
I think I've seen the image that you're referring to before, but what book was that from?
The book is Determined by Robert Sapolsky.
Okay.
It's about free will, but he has a good intro to chaos and emerging complexity and how brain works. He's a neuroscientist, so he writes a lot about that.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot in this subject, isn't there? But I think something that connects to what you said and connects back to the Christian Verweis article is that we have a tendency to generalize or take our experiences and assume that they're going to be very widely applicable, and that's just a human sort of trait that I think everybody has a propensity to do. Like I went on holiday to Japan, therefore everybody will love Japan, right? I recommend it to anybody. But some people, because of like difficulty with foreign languages or long distance travel or whatever, it may not be for them. And I think there's a tendency in the world of work that we're in to say, I had an experience with, let's say, combining Scrum and Kanban and XP, and it was great. Therefore, everybody, I found the magic formula. But as we know, we've had a conversation already about Cernevin. In complex contexts, there's far more variables going on than just your experience. Organizations are extremely dynamic. There's an incredibly high number of complex variables going on in interactions in and around teams that influence the success or failure of those experiments. And it's incumbent on us, I think, to recognize why things work, not just why your experience was positive, or what were the determining factors that might have caused them to fail. This is why we try and build in learning cycles in all of the frameworks. I think have these things in common, right? Learning cycles are present. So somewhere along the way, we've learned that learning cycles are useful. But when it comes to communicating with each other, I think maybe there's a bit more shouting or, let's say lively debate going on.
Yeah, I think this this specific aspect of documenting what was the context, what worked, what didn't work. This is something that I think is closely, it's part of the scientific approach. When you do an experiment, you want to control various variables. You want to know what's the status at the beginning. You want to understand how was the experiment performed. You want to document the procedure and a lot of this stuff that is not really done much before some ideas are spreading, which are, there's this tendency to see something, take it, and just say it's a great idea. We need to implement it. Spotify model. It's a collection of great ideas. We need to do Spotify model. We need to implement it in our company. When the people who are documenting and spreading the Spotify model, they said, yeah, don't do it because it's not even how we work, all of us. It's just a snapshot and we already do something else. And in general, it's not a good idea to copy paste stuff. And still, yeah, we do that all the time with a lot of great ideas, which, it's hard to tell if they are also great in your context. It's like it will be worth to try them out. And then we have this tendency to, instead of trying them out, experimenting, writing down what worked, what didn't, what was at the beginning, we just say, yes, that's the way we're going to do it. Scrum teams all over the company. Everyone is a Scrum team now. And yeah, if you're not succeeding as a Scrum team, you're doing it wrong. We just need to teach you how to do it better. And that might not be the case. Your light went off. Does it mean?
Yeah.
Let's be brave, buddy. Let's finish this.
But yeah, so the evidence from my couple of videos using this light suggests that I need to invest more time charging the thing. But I think, yeah, there's a lot to take away from this. I think there are concrete things that we can do ourselves. Like, for example, even just investigating when you see claims out there, like what are the sources for this? I mean, it's almost like the rules of using social media and news these days. Like, what are the sources of this? Is it one person's experience? There's value there, of course there is, but I mean, do we generalize to every situation from there? Of course not. That we need to be careful with those kind of things. And I think for ourselves, for me, like I would be thinking about how to use data. So that old evidence-based management, the evidence-based approach to, like, are we basing our next steps on feelings of how things went? Like, feelings are an input, but do we have evidence? Do we have data to maybe support those feelings or falsify, to counter the impression that we've got from what happened? And I think we need both, and perhaps the balance has gone in favor of, like, I've had this experience and I feel this to be right. It's my deeply held belief, therefore I'm going to really push it hard. And the balance is kind of tilted in favor of that, rather than, what data, what sources, what other information do we have to validate or refute this,
I see it as something that I need to investigate a little bit more. It's deeply human thing to do. It even in our profession, somehow, there was probably predominant model of waterfall, and then they came up with this idea, agile manifest, and so on, and the pendulum swinged in the opposite direction. And maybe it was too far away with waterfall. Maybe it's too far away with some of the agile ideas. Maybe it's now swinging back. I doubt it will swing back to the optimal place. In the coming years, I imagine it will swing too far, and it will begin to swing back again, which is super funny.
Yeah, but I guess what we can do in the context of conversations like this is more of I guess, sharing the sources of where our information is coming from. So, for example, the book you're reading, the Christian Verweis article, these are resources that people can look at, and more of that is better. I think rather than just saying I believe in science, right? Which is kind of a strange, unscientific opinion, but yeah, not making bold claims, checking sources. They're things that I'll definitely try and do more of.
Give a recommendation.
Yeah, I'd recommend the Christian Verweis article. I think it's great and has a lot of follow up links, like a lot of jump off that could be taken. And one thing he also recommends is using Google Scholar. That's not something I've used habitually before, but I'm going to start using that where I can.
I'll recommend the book I mentioned by Robert Sapolsky. This is what I also mentioned in relation to complexity and living in the software bubble. That book is definitely outside of the software bubble, so you can see a lot of different influences there, which I think is great.
Yeah, just last word on the bubble. I think there's a problem with social media, which is that it can reinforce the bubble that you're in, and that can be kind of dangerous because you end up staying with and reinforcing only the beliefs only the things that you've already learned to date. And if we're being sort of true to what we're really trying to do here, right, we should be always trying to challenge and experiment and figure out new ways of working. But easier said than done, right? Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Let's stop there.